When my wife left me, it felt like my world had ended. We had been married for 4 years, and though life was not easy, I believed love could keep us together. I was working hard but struggling financially, often juggling 2 jobs to cover our basic needs. One day she looked at me with cold eyes and said she couldn't live a life of poverty anymore. Without hesitation, she packed her things and walked out. I begged her to stay, but she said she deserved better, leaving me broken and humiliated. For months, I lived in silence, replaying her words in my head. I wondered what I had done wrong besides not being rich. The nights were the worst. I would lie awake, imagining her smiling in another man's arms. But instead of drowning in sorrow, I pushed myself harder. I decided to rebuild my life, not for her, but for myself. Slowly, fortune began to turn in my favor. I was offered a chance to work with a business partner who believed in me, and together we built something strong. Money started flowing in, but more than that, I built respect and stability. 2 years later, I received an invitation that nearly made me laugh out loud. It was a wedding card, from her. She was marrying a wealthy man, and she had the audacity to send me an invite. Maybe she wanted to show me what I had missed, or perhaps she wanted me to feel small again. At first, I thought about throwing it away, but then I realized, this was my moment. I wasn't the same man she had abandoned. On the day of her wedding, I arrived dressed in a tailored suit, stepping out of a car that turned heads. The whispers started as soon as I entered the hall. Old friends who knew me as the poor husband now looked at me in shock. I carried myself with quiet confidence, shaking hands with important people who were now part of my circle. When my ex-wife spotted me across the room, her smile faltered. Her eyes widened, and I could see the panic in her face. She approached me later, her voice trembling. "You came," she said, as if surprised. I gave her a polite smile and replied, "Of course, I wouldn't miss such an important day." Her groom noticed the tension, but she quickly tried to brush it off. I made sure not to show anger or bitterness. Instead, I showed her everything she thought I would never become. During dinner, a few guests asked me about my life. I told them about my company, my travels, and the work I had been doing. I didn't boast, I simply told the truth. People were impressed, and I saw envy flicker in her eyes as she listened. The man she had chosen for money now looked uncomfortable, as though he realized she still carried regrets. At one point, she pulled me aside. "Why didn't you tell me you would succeed?" she whispered. I chuckled softly. "Because love should never depend on wealth," I answered. "But you taught me that lesson the hard way." She had no reply. Her eyes glistened, but I didn't feel pity anymore. The rest of the evening, I enjoyed myself. I danced, laughed, and left the hall with dignity. I hadn't come to fight or cause a scene. I came to show her that leaving me had been her greatest mistake. She had traded loyalty for wealth, and in the end, she lost both. When I drove away from the wedding, I didn't look back. My revenge wasn't about ruining her day. It was about showing her that the man she once thought unworthy had risen beyond her reach. She would live her new life, but always with the memory of what she had thrown away. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in years. I realized revenge didn't have to be loud or cruel. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply living better, proving that those who doubted you were wrong. She left me because I was poor, but she invited me to her wedding hoping to mock me. Instead, she witnessed the life she could have had. And that was all the revenge I needed.